You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
So excited you could join me here today on our Total Wellness Tuesday show, where the topic is Ayurveda, and more specifically, how to discover your Ayurvedic Dosha. And in Ayurvedic terms, your dosha means your body type. So at least from Western-based philosophy, we think that there's three main body types. So what are those body types? Well, it's the ectomorph, it's the mesomorph, and it's the endomorph. So all of that's a great way of looking at it. But Ayurveda goes much, much deeper. And what they do is they actually correlate. And again, the dosha has been around for, let's say, 5,000 plus years. And the actual body type, that ecto, meso, endomorph, just a couple decades, that's it. So when we get to look at those, we can actually see there's obviously a direct comparison between the two, without a doubt. But your Ayurvedic body type goes so much deeper. And hopefully you tuned in last week, because last week I did begin our Ayurvedic series. So if you haven't checked that out, simply go to stephencabral.com/900. stephencabral.com/900. And on that show, I started our Ayurvedic series. I began to explain to you what is Ayurvedic medicine, why is it truly, and to this day, still the most powerful form of natural health in the world. And the reason is, and you can go back and listen to that show, is that it's so in-depth, that it looks at every facet and every part of the human. It looks at their mind, it looks at their body, it looks at their spirituality, it looks at everything. And what it's looking for is to create balance. It's not saying that you need to be on a high-protein or low-protein diet. It's not saying that you need to get out into the hot weather or the cool weather. What it's looking at is your body, your unique bio-individuality. And it's so funny because in Western-based philosophy, I mean, I can think of it right now. Like Roger Williams is one of the doctors I was studying when I was, so again, like went for my naturopathic doctoral degree. But even while I was going for it, I was reading hundreds of other books, like hundreds of other books a year. And that's because I just wanted to shorten my learning curve. It's like, oh, how can I get more advanced faster? And I simply needed to accumulate more knowledge. And that's why, I really want to share this with you, is that if you love Ayurvedic medicine or you love natural health, the way to advance faster and then be able to help others is to study more, read more, or listen to more audiobooks if you prefer it that way, or podcasts is great. But then also the certifications. Like at some point, I like you reading the books and doing the certifications and the seminars, because you need to go deep on these topics. So although I love that people are teaching Ayurveda right now on podcasts and in certain books, I don't feel they're doing it justice. And I mean absolutely no disrespect at all, because I love that people are talking more about Ayurveda, and I hope that it leads to more people recognizing it and studying it, without a doubt. And then I hope that more people integrate it into their life. But one of the biggest things that I see, mainly in the US, is that we like to know about a lot of different things, which is phenomenal. And we like to get fads. Like Ayurveda is now becoming soon to be a fad. But the problem is that we don't go deep on these things, right? So all of a sudden, we just say, oh, what's my dosha? What's my body type? And oh, I'm Vata Pitta, or I'm Pitta Kapha, or I'm this, this, and this. All of that is great. No, it honestly is. All of it is fantastic. However, you'll see today on the podcast, most people don't know their Ayurvedic body type. They don't. And the reason is that they're basing it off of current mood, current level of ambition, more depressed or more whatever, or what they want it to be as they're reading the quiz. And that's why I have no problem with these. The problem is then you begin to implement things potentially in your life to work or balance a body type that's not really your body type. And that's the interesting thing to look at. So we have so many people saying, oh, I'm more of the Vata Pitta. And I'm saying, okay, great. Like a lot of people want to be Vata Pitta. And so you say, okay, so they start doing a lot more cooling things for the Pitta, right? And they start doing more heavier things for the Vata. But the problem is they're not really Vata Pitta, so they start to gain weight faster because their true body type is not Vata. And they start to feel more chill or more cold, or the thyroid starts to go lower because they're not actually pitta. So, when you look at these things, you have to understand is that what we're going to teach today is the true body type, the true constitution. Now, we're not going to look at it from a mental perspective or a psychology-based perspective. The reason that I've seen in my practice, and again, studying overseas, so the nice thing is I learned the American version of Ayurvedic medicine, and that was phenomenal. But then I also lived it, breathed it, was fully immersed in it overseas, and I went to India multiple times, and I went to Sri Lanka, and then I studied it also when I was in Europe working at functional medicine practice. That was a combination of functional medicine and Ayurveda, and that was a phenomenal experience. And I was over there with Dr. Pramdani, and I was able to directly see how we use state-of-the-art microscopy, which is what I ended up doing as well, and functional medicine, lab testing. He didn't do as much. I obviously do a lot of lab testing. And then he incorporated that with Ayurveda and Ayurvedic lifestyle. So, it was really fantastic. Obviously, I've had many, many mentors over the years. My original mentor, Dr. Pete, was the one who got me all into all of this in the first place. I had been reading books in Ayurveda, and I said, oh, here's my body type. And, I knew that it wasn't my real body type. It's kind of like what I wanted to be my body type, like a lot of guys and a lot of girls as well, thinking that. But, they kind of just said to me, and not to me directly, but, it's like it's understanding and accepting who you are. That's the beautiful thing about Ayurveda. So I'm going to go through your body type now today, but I want you to understand that this is what you were born as. This is your genotype, or this is your natural constitution. You have to accept it. And accepting it really does, as they say, set you free. It's a beautiful thing because then you know who you are. Like once you start to really know who you are, your physical body type and your emotional and all of it together, once you understand that, it's very liberating. It's very freeing. You don't need to pretend to be anything to anyone or for anyone because you're living for yourself to then be able to serve the world in a greater way. So until you accept who you really are, and that includes your body type, includes your constitution, you're not going to be able to be at your best because you're always living a little bit of a lie. You're telling yourself a little bit of a fib that isn't quite true. And I see that right now. People are saying, oh, this is my body type. Yeah, but it's not. It's not. I mean, I know that you want it to be, and I know that a lot of the other parts of the world might believe that because they don't really truly understand Ayurveda. But the truth is that you're doing yourself a disservice. You're not doing anyone else a disservice because you won't understand how to balance that body type for life. When I truly accepted, I knew, but I didn't accept. When I fully accepted my body type, I was then able to live in better harmony with this body I was given. And it's a fantastic, this vessel of mine that I made very, very sick when I was 17 years old, right? And I built it back, but I never fully got it completely better until I met my mentor. She got me deep into the Ayurvedic-based philosophy and obviously understanding genetics. And then I was able to combine those. And then living for my body type, living for my constitution, which for me is understanding that I can't overdo it. I can't overdo it in all facets of my life. So do I overdo it in life? Absolutely. I absolutely overdo it. And I overdo it with work. I really do. And that's because I love my work. This is my calling. You can call it my work, you can call it my career, but this is it. People are like, oh, well, when are you going to run out of ideas for podcasts? When are you going to stop doing this? It's never. It's like, well, what am I going to do? Stop being me? That's the thing. And so what I want to do is get you to that place. But now on the other side of that, as you're going to start to see into this podcast on Ayurveda today on the body types, but also into next week as we go into the advanced, is that you need to learn how to balance that for your lifestyle. So I know that I have to balance the amount that I want to be able to work and also, like play and have fun and travel and do all these things with my family, that I need to balance that, meaning that I need then a little bit more sleep. I can't fall back on that. I need to be eating the healthy foods. People are like, well, why not just live a little, eat more, all different types of foods? Well, because then I wouldn't get to work as much as I would like and make sure that even if I get home Friday night at midnight on a flight, don't get into bed till 1 o'clock in the morning, and now I miss my sleep. That's not great. But, my kids are still going to be up. They might be up at 6:30 a.m. I need to get only 5.5 hours sleep that night and be at my best for them, right? Because the weekend's their time. It's all their time. And so then what I say is, okay, well, then I need to make sure that I'm eating cleanly, taking my supplements to combat that, and then try to get more sleep that next night. Try to get into bed maybe at 9 o'clock that next night and sleep until maybe 6, maybe 6:30 and get a little bit more sleep that way. So it's all about balance, where other people, more of that endomorphic body type or kapha body type, they may not need as much sleep. That's the truth. And so I want to explain all of that today. But the best way for me to be able to explain it for you is to teach you from head to toe. I do a head to toe analysis. So there's lots of different ways. Like Ayurvedic dosha typing is truly, it's a science and an art. It really is. But you have to understand that there is an actual science to this, and I want to take you through it. And one of the other nice things is if you work with a really great practitioner, because this takes a lot of time, a lot of practice, is that you can actually do what's called a pulse diagnosis of the genotype or the dosha. And so this is something I actually studied when I studied this quite in depth in Mysore. I never know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but Mysore in India. And Dr. Talavane is who I studied with, and just a great guy. He was actually a cardiologist in the United States. Amazing wellness center. And he taught me. I was there, and I was just studying for him. And every day we would go over, every day. And then after he taught me, and I finally got it, because it takes time, is then I had to go around his entire center, and I would work with the other practitioners, and I would take their dosha, basically get their dosha just from their pulse. And maybe I'll teach that in the future if you're interested in that. It just takes a little bit more practice, a little bit more study. But, before that, it was years of me looking at every single person I walked by on the street. I'm like, Vata Pitta. I'm like, Pitta Kapha, Vata predominantly. And I would just go down the line of, exactly what this person was. That's the great thing about this, is that Ayurvedic medicine is something that you need to put your 10,000 hours in. So I'm going to get into the body types right now, but I want to say this, is that don't be upset if you don't master it right away. Ayurvedic medicine takes that, if you've ever heard of this, mastery takes about 10,000 hours in a topic. Ayurveda is at least that long, meaning that you're going to want to spend that, about 5 years or so of really practicing, breathing, living, studying, all of those things for Ayurveda medicine. You're not just going to get it on a trip to India, or you're not going to get it on reading one book on Ayurvedic medicine. It's many, many books, many, many times repetition. I can tell you right now, still read up on the topic, still love Ayurvedic medicine. I'm picking up new things all the time, the subtleties, as they call it, in Ayurvedic medicine. All right, so without further ado, this is how we're going to do this. We're going to make this a 3-part, basically, series for the body types. We're going to do the body typing basics today, understanding your constitution, which is so much more important than, again, a lot of what's going on online right now, because they're basing it on mindset. Please do not base your physical constitution, your body, and what you're going to try to balance on mindset, because you don't necessarily balance mindset with foods. You can, but you balance more of the mindset through what's going on right now in your life, and then other pacifying things to calm that mindset or speed it up if it's more of that kapha-based mindset. We'll talk about that when we get into mindset. This is going to be a once-a-week series on Ayurveda. Next week will be advanced body typing. So master today. Go to stephencabral.com/907. That will be today's podcast notes. I will put all of the Ayurvedic names and dosha assessments right in there. And then next week will be the advanced body typing. So master today. We'll move on next week. We'll get even more advanced. So you'll learn more about your body type. And then the week after, we're going to get into how to balance that body type, looking more at balancing the body type. And each week will be on diet for your body type, exercise for your body type, sleep for your body type. We'll go through it step by step. So what I want is to go deep on the foundation. Remember, Western-based mentality is we just go surface level. You read an article and all of a sudden, we're all experts on things. And I'm guilty of that a lot of times myself as well. It's like, well, yeah, but you only know enough to be dangerous. Let's go deep on this topic. I want to go every single week a little bit more on Ayurvedic medicine. I want you to become an expert in this topic, in this category. And I really believe that with enough repetition and enough talk about this balancing your dosha, but truly accepting it, because I know online, I'm on Instagram, I love Instagram, but I'm telling you right now, I see all these people saying, I'm this, I'm that. And I look at it, I'm like, no, you're not. And I mean no disrespect, because you're a fantastic person. You're doing so many great things in this world, but that's not your body type. It's not. That's what you want your body type to be, or that's what your mindset is, but that's not your actual constitution. So if you go to balance that with a certain type of nutrition and a certain types of exercise and a certain types of lifestyle, you're going to get worse. That's the bottom line. So my job really, my passion, my purpose, all of those things is to try to teach to the best of my ability. But remember, I only teach on the things that I have a knowledge base on. You won't hear me teaching on any of the other stuff in life that I have no knowledge base, which really, outside of, let's say, the health, fitness, wellness, functional medicine area, is pretty much everything else. This is what I do, and that's all I'm going to teach on. So let's get into it right now. Head-to-toe assessment for your body type. Okay, so for a head-to-toe assessment, we're going to start right at the hair. So for our private wellness clients, I always do a dosha assessment while we're on a Skype call. And to be honest, all I ever need to see is essentially from the shoulders or so up. That's really it. Once you master these Ayurvedic body types and be able to do an assessment, you can tell typically with just people's chest or shoulders up. That's all you really need. Now, does it help to have the rest of the body? Absolutely. But you'll be able to pull out the subtleties just from the head alone. The head alone is the best place to look because there's so much to look on the person. Now, if you can get an overall broad shot of the person, even better, because then you get to see the actual shape of the body. And we'll start to go through it. I will make sense of this. This is the basics. You need to master the basics. And next week, we'll get into the subtleties, right? The advanced part of looking at each body type. But if you don't know the original, if you're not looking at that, really, really difficult to get the advanced down. So head to toe assessment. Here's the thing. I'm going to post this on Instagram. On this post, let me know if we ever developed a service, if it would be useful to you, if you'd be interested in doing it, where we tell you what your Ayurvedic dosha is, your Ayurvedic body type. If that's something you're interested in, let me know on Instagram or go to cabralsupportgroup.com and just let us know on that private Facebook page, which, again, all positive people are absolutely welcome to join that. If that's something that you're interested in, let me know. It's something that we may provide in the future because the truth is that we just want people to know what their dosha is, what their body type is. All right, so let's get going. Hopefully you'll be able to figure it out right from this quiz right now. All right, so we start at the hair, all right? This is really, really important because remember, all of this changes with the age as well. So what you want to do, and again, I honestly, this is something that I've truly, I just feel like this is something that I have put in my mastery level, meaning like I've done 20,000 hours or so on this, maybe more. And it's just looking at this. This is all I did when I was over in India. We would look at the person. We look at their Prakriti, which is their original constitution, the Vikriti, which is where they're at right now, meaning like more of their phenotype. We'd say, okay, what's wrong? How do we get them back to their original dosha? And we'd have to get that assessment done really, really quick. We'd get them in. And again, I didn't speak the same language, so I had to be able to do this without even asking them all these different questions. And you can do that by looking at a person. Believe me, we will get more into this. All right. So the hair is this. Vata hair is typically more dry. It's a little bit more curly, a little bit more kinky. Pitta is straighter hair. Oftentimes it's lighter in color or blonde, where Vata hair would be darker hair, okay? And Kapha hair would be more of a medium-based brown, and it's thick and wavy, okay? Now again, all of this matters based on your culture, race, ethnicity, all of those things as well. Because if your ethnicity lends more towards curlier hair, darker hair, you have to understand it's all relative, meaning like relative to everyone in your family, around you, whatever it might be. Is your hair drier, curlier, more kinky, etc.? Like really, really straightforward. Pitta, same as well. It's not going to matter if it's light brown hair or blonde hair if everyone in your race, ethnicity, culture, etc., has dark hair. But what you can look at is that the hair on a pitta is finer hair. It's more fine. It's thinner, okay? Very, very important. For men, pitta men typically have more baldness or they lose their hair faster, okay? And kapha hair is very thick. It's very wavy. Kapha men typically don't lose their hair until much later or maybe not at all. They have thick hair. It's shiny hair. It has more cowlicks. It's wavy. Same for women. It's thick, wavy hair. So meaning like you might all have the same follicles, but on a kapha follicle, they have like 3 or 4 hairs growing out of the same hair follicle as well. Women, more hair like on the legs or thicker hair as well. Kapha men will have more body hair typically, at least thicker, curlier body hair. The beard will be thicker as well. So they have more hair in general. Vata, though, can have a lot of hair. It's just not as thick. And Pitta, less hair, okay? Now, we'll go to the forehead. So we move down from the hair to the forehead. Now, the forehead, meaning like how long is the forehead, right? From your eyebrows to your hair. This is actually a big thing in Ayurvedic medicine. Well, for Vata, it's pretty much normal, what you consider normal. And how do you know normal? Only when based on Kapha and on Pitta. So Pitta, the hairline starts much higher. So you'll see a lot of women and men, and the hairline just starts like an extra inch up. So they have a little bit more forehead. And again, this is not judging as good and bad. We have to get rid of this good, bad, like, oh, it's better to have a higher forehead. Like many hundreds of years ago, that would be prized, and people would actually shave a little bit of that hair, and they would let it come back further. And then the widow's peak, so Kapha would have the lower hairline, meaning like they'd have less of a forehead because their hairline starts typically a little lower, all right? A little bit more onto the forehead, oftentimes having a widow's peak as well. So then Vata would simply be in between those. So now with Vata here, you know that you have typically drier hair, curlier hair, kinkier hair. Now, a lot of people might have dry hair though, because maybe they're swimming in a pool all the time. So you have to understand is like, what's your natural constitution, right? This is typically we're looking after puberty, okay? And we're saying, because you can't say, oh, when I was 8 years old, I was this, this, and this. Well, let's do what it is when you've gone through puberty. Let's just say in your early to mid-20s, okay? Even better, mid-20s or so. Look at it at that point. Now, forehead, we just spoke about that. Eyebrows, okay? So we're still kind of on the hair line. We're still looking at the hair. The eyebrows on a Vata are going to be a little bit more curly, a little bit messier, kind of growing in different directions. Because remember, Vata, as we spoke about on episode 900, is movement. It's airy. It's all of those specific things. The Pitta, Pitta hair we know on the top of the head is more fine. It's thinner. And the same with the eyebrows. So the Pitta have very thin eyebrows, not very thick. Now the Kapha has the thickest eyebrows, right? Just like we spoke about before, thick, shiny, wavy hair. And the same for the eyebrows as well. A lot of the Kapha body types, when we look at that, they get more of the unibrow, as they call it, right? Where that kind of eyebrow connects more towards the middle. The eyebrows are just thicker in general. Not good, not bad, not anything. It's just the way that the body is. And that's what we look at it. We really have to respect the body, but respect our body. And like just be really grateful and thankful for this body that you've been given, because once you know it, once you accept it, you can balance it. And when you balance it, you've got this healthy body that you're in amazing shape, you feel great, you have tons of energy, and you're truly enjoying life because you're not trying to be anyone else other than you. That's it. And now we move on to the eyes. Well, the eyes for the Vata are a little bit more narrow, okay? They're a little bit more narrow. And then the Pitta eyes will be a little wider. They'd be more of an almond-based shape. And then the Kapha eyes, though, are the larger eyes. So kind of more of a circular eye. They have a lot of vibrance to them now. So the Kapha eyes are told to sparkle a little bit more, right? They're nice, wide, vibrant eyes. Now, if we're looking at eye colors, but again, this matters based on ethnicity and everything else, is that the Kapha eyes are oftentimes blue. Not always, just oftentimes blue. My family, it's not necessarily. The Pitta, sometimes green eyes, and the Vata, oftentimes brown, okay? Now, you can have a Kapha with brown eyes and a Pitta with brown eyes. It's not that you can't. It's just if we're looking at the specifics, brown, green, blue. That's typically how we're looking at it. Now, if we're looking at color of the hair would be, again, the darker hair would be the Vata. The Pitta hair would be blonde or red or just lighter brown. Lighter hair, that's it. And just like they're going to have a lighter skin tone typically. And the Kapha hair, a medium brown, but definitely, towards more of a little bit more of a medium brown, potentially even a darker brown as well. Now, we're moving past the eyes to the nose. So the Vata nose is typically a little bit longer. It might have a little bump in it. It might be a little crooked. That's more of that Vata. Remember, movement, airy, space, kind of it's more bony. Think of it that way, all right? That's a good way to think of Vata as well. More of the bones you can see. Now, the Pitta nose is very small. The Pitta nose is very prized in the Western-based thought process of beauty. It's a smaller nose. It's a little upturned at the very end, and sometimes it can be a little red towards the end of the nose. That's the Pitta nose. The Kapha nose is typically a little bit thicker, and the nostrils are a little bit wider. But again, there are variations of all of these. I'm going to go through my own body type after this with you, and then I'll let you count it up and kind of guess what I am. All right, I'll reveal that on a future show as well. So that's what the nose is. We're going now to the chin. Let's see where I am in my nose. We're going down to the lips. Okay, we'll go lips next. Lips are going to be moderate sized for the Vata. They're going to be thin for the Pitta. And then the lips are going to be thicker for the Kapha. The teeth, very interesting, on the Vata are longer but thinner. Okay? The Pitta teeth are actually shorter, so they're just short teeth. In general, they're a little smaller. And the Kapha teeth are about the same size as the Vata teeth, maybe just a little smaller but thicker, right? So you can, when you look at your bottom teeth, you can almost see like you could rest something on those bottom teeth. The front teeth we're talking about, not just the molars. The front teeth are thicker in size. I have Kapha teeth myself. And then when we look at overall shape, we're going down to chin next. The chin for the Vata is going to be smaller. Again, a little bit more bony, but smaller. You're going to have a square chin, a stronger chin for the Pitta. And the Kapha is going to have more of a softer, rounder chin. And sometimes it's going to be thick, but sometimes a little dimple there as well. Now, the shape of the face, this is an important one, because I told you in the beginning, I can typically tell someone's constitution just by looking at the eyes, the hair, the shape of the face. It's very, very easy once you master this. Shape of the face from the Vata, oval, a longer face, okay? I have a longer face. Very, very simple, very straightforward to look at my face. Now, when you look at the Pitta, more of a square face, all right? And then when you're looking at now there are variations of all this as well. The Kapha face is going to be more rounder, okay, more circular. So if we're just looking at shapes, we'd say, okay, a longer oval for Vata or more of a rectangle, more of a square for the Pitta, and more of a circle or rounder for the Kapha, softer. When you think of Vata, I want you to think bony. You can see all the different bones. Not a bad thing. It is what it is. Kapha, I want you to think softer. It's smoother. It's more gentle. That's what the Kapha looks like. And Pitta always looks more strong. It looks more muscular. That's more of the Pitta. Okay, that's shape of the face. The neck, this throws a lot of people off. The neck for the Vata is long and thin. A lot of people know that. Okay, Vata would be longer in general, more slender. That makes sense. Vata neck, long and thin. Pitta, though, is more medium and thick. Okay? And the Kapha is actually a short neck. A lot of people don't know that. It's a very short neck, but it's also thin. It's not a thick neck. It's not a muscular neck. And a lot of people think, oh, Kapha, everything's bigger. That's not true. That's actually not true for the Kapha at all. The Kapha neck is very gentle. It's very soft. It's smaller. It's a little bit thinner, but it's shorter. That's the difference between the Vata and the Kapha neck. The Vata neck is longer and the Kapha neck is shorter, but they're both thin. Okay. The shoulders, easy to tell. Vata shoulders are not far off from Kapha shoulders, but Vata shoulders are narrow and slender. Kapha shoulders are not necessarily very broad. A lot of people mistake that. Broad is actually the Pitta. The shoulders are thicker, and the overall chest is a little bit more robust. It's a little bit more barrel-shaped, okay? So now Pitta, of course, would be a little bit more developed chest, shoulders, and a little bit broader, okay? They have more of a V taper from their shoulders to the waist. That's the Pitta body type. That's why everybody wants to be the Pitta body type, right? They always think of it that way. So very, very simple, very straightforward too on that as well. The chest. So chest, when we look at that as well, we're thinking more of a narrow, more of kind of like when you look at some of the side, more of a narrower for the Vata for both men and women, typically smaller breasts for women for the Vata, broader shoulders, medium size, we'll say breasts or so for women, and larger pectorals for men. So men actually have, as the Pitta body type, larger pectorals. That actually could go for women as well with the Pitta body type, for sure it does. And the ability to add more muscle in the chest and broader shoulders is a Pitta-based quality. And for the Kapha, we have more of that kind of thicker thoracic area, which is the chest itself, more barrel-shaped, but again, obviously not a barrel. I'm just using that analogy to move towards that. And typically larger breasts for women that are more of the Kapha body type. But not always true. Why? Well, there could be hormonal imbalances, right? If women have actual hormonal imbalances between progesterone and estrogen and many other things, they might actually get wider hips but smaller breasts. And that does not mean that they're not a Kapha. It actually means that there's an imbalance within their Kapha itself, and they might actually have some type of Vata-based imbalance, which shows stress in the body. So again, that's the beautiful thing, and I'm so thankful for my mentors that they were able to show me how to blend, or at least guide me in that direction, blending functional medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, and then, myself with my obsessiveness, I try to just take that to the next level. And so that was something I very much love looking into it, and I can help people speak in basically a Western-based mentality about this ancient 6,000-year-old beautiful system of medicine. All right, up next is the wrists. Okay, so when we look at the wrists, this is an easy test. You can simply wrap your middle finger to your thumb around your hand. If you can overlap your fingers, that's typically a Vata-based wrist. A Vata-based wrist, you can see the bone. Okay, you can see the bone and the outside sticking out. I'm not going to get too deep into anatomy today. We will do that next week. We'll talk about the anatomy, we'll talk about radius, we'll talk about ulna, we'll talk about all those things as well. Just think about this. I don't want to overcomplicate things, okay? If you wrap your middle finger around to your thumb, if you can overlap, typically a Vata-based wrist. If you can see your bone there, that's Vata, okay? If you can see just a little bit of the bone, well, that's most likely the Pitta, and your thumb can just touch your middle finger. That's more of what I have. And then if you look at the Kapha, they're typically not always going to be able to touch that thumb to the middle finger. There might be a little bit of space, and they typically can't see that bone as well on the outside of the wrist. Okay? All right, so along with the actual wrist itself, let's talk about the hands. Really important to look at this. So, again, the joints in the Vata are going to be very thin. So think about that. Thin wrists, thin ankles, that's Vata. Thicker wrists, thicker elbow, thicker ankles, that's going to be more of the Kapha. We'll talk about ankles in a moment. We're getting ahead of ourselves. And then more medium-sized or a little bit more muscular, that's going to be the Pitta, okay? Even without exercise. We're not talking about like building up your muscles. That's not, anybody can build up their muscles, Vata, Pitta, or Kapha, okay? I don't want to mistake that. It's just the bodies look different even when you add more muscle on them. All right, hands and fingers. A lot of people confuse this. The Vata hands can be long or short, but always they're a little bit thinner, right? They don't look quite as strong. You can see more of the bones in the hands itself, more of the joints as well. They stick out or protrude a little bit more. Protruding is one of those other Vata-based qualities. Now, Pitta, this is where people mistake it because they think it's Kapha hands. Pitta hands are actually the thicker fingers, more muscular fingers and hands. Kapha are actually softer hands. They're not always the largest hands. They're actually a little bit more softer. You can't see the bones on the top of the hand as well. And you also, overall look softer. There's not as much maybe vascularity with veins. A lot of the Pitta type would have those carpals basically that we're talking about before. You can't see the bones quite as well when we look at the metacarpals and carpals of the hands itself. So really, really important to look at that. Hands are a dead giveaway for part of the body type. Let's move on to the waist. Okay, so the waist for the Vata body type is typically thinner. However, drinking alcohol, eating more processed foods, you can start to get a belly on you. But you're still typically thinner arms, thinner legs, but you have a belly on you for the Vata, but you're still thinner overall. Now, when you don't put on weight, maybe in your early 20s, whatever it might be, you would typically be able to see your abs a little bit. They're not super muscular, but you'd certainly have a small waist. With the Pitta type, you're going to have more of a stronger midsection, a little bit maybe more of the obliques. You'd be more prone to being able to get abs and show off your abs as well. The Kapha body type, they'll typically get a flat stomach when they're in great shape, but they're not going to be able to see those abs as easily. Again, not good, not bad. Being able to see your abs or not seeing your abs doesn't make or break you as a human being, okay? We just have a mindset sometimes that we need to see those specific things. Having a flat stomach as a Kapha body type, even though it might look a little softer, but being flat, very, very healthy for your body type. So just be careful what you're trying to aim for. Okay. Hips. Now let's move down to the hips. Vata body type, thinner and narrower hips. Smaller glutes. Harder to build up and develop your glutes. Not wide hips for both men and women. Now a little bit wider hips, but not wide at all. And more muscular glutes and quadriceps legs are going to be more of the Pitta. They can put on a little bit more muscle. Not thick. Okay. We're not talking about thick legs or thick glutes. Now the Kapha body type would be wider hips. Okay. Wider hips. And they're going to be more thicker legs themselves, okay? And those thicker legs are going to be more of that Kapha-based body type. Okay, so let's do a little bit more of that. So I want to talk about the calves. So Vatas will have very little calves, small calves, very hard to develop. Pittas will have very well-defined calves. If you see an athletic-looking leg with very carved-out calves and very carved-out muscles in the legs, that's Pitta. And if you see thicker calves, meaning like just thick, more blocky calves and very thick ankles, then that's going to be more of the Kapha body type. Again, not good or bad, it just is. And then feet. Feet typically they can either be small or long, but they're typically slender. You can see the bones in those feet a little bit easier. For the Pitta feet, that's Vata. For the Pitta feet, they're going to be a little bit more muscular. They're going to be moderate size. And then for the Kapha, they're going to be thicker. They're going to be more blockier feet along with the blockier ankles. And they're going to be typically shorter, thicker toes. So they just look like big, strong feet. That's basically it. Again, not good, not bad, just is. That's it for the Vata, for the Pitta, for the Kapha, because different people prize different things as well. So that's why it's all subjective in the first place. All we want you to do is figure out your overall body type. So we just went from the head down to the toe. Now, what does the overall shape look like? Well, I kind of had a little fun here because remember, you have to have fun when looking at your Ayurvedic body type. You really do. Because it's you. Have fun with it. Enjoy it. It is you. So I always like to say the Vata body type is thinner. It's more of like I just compare them to vegetables and fruits and vegetables. So the Vata body type, more of what we call like the string bean. They're just thinner. They can absolutely put on body fat, but if they're living out of their Vata type, right? Or they can get too thin, which is not be very good. They can become more catabolic. We'll talk about this in the future. A low-carb diet for a Vata body type is literally... it's detrimental to them. It's life-threatening to them, okay, honestly. And the Pitta body type, I referred to them more as the jalapeno pepper. So they're a little bit more muscular. They're a little bit more mighty. As we talk about it more next week in the subtleties, they're a little bit more fiery for sure. And I think that's a good way to describe them, okay? They're kind of moderate size, able to put on a little bit more muscle, broader shoulders. And then the Kapha body type, more of the pear shape, okay? So they have kind of the moderate size or so upper body. They typically have wider in the middle, wider in the hips, potentially the waist as well, and then kind of tapering down. So all great body types, they really are. Some people prize this one, some people prize that. Honestly, doesn't matter. It really doesn't. You're being objective when you're looking at all those things, or not being objective sometimes. So when I look at my own, and again, so I always want to be honest with myself. So in the beginning, I'm like, oh, well, I want to be everything the Pitta is, because most guys, they want to be Pitta. They want to be built like the stereotypical, what they see like Marine or like Navy SEAL or bodybuilder, whatever it is. Like you're always looking for that. And great, okay, well, that's fine. But eventually you have to say, hey, listen, like this is how I was born. This is who I am. And I can make the most now of that body to do what works for me. And that's the truth. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And then I see, so that's why, again, a lot of guys are just off. They just call themselves the Pitta body type. Of course, like, okay, great. And then a lot of women, they say, oh, no, I'm more of the Vata body type, or I'm more of the Vata Pitta. But they never want to be the Kapha body type, which is honestly too bad. Because, there's so many great qualities, amazing qualities to the Kapha body type. They're a curvier body type. They have typically the best hair, the best skin. They have amazing immunity. So we'll talk about more of these things in the future as well. But when I look at my body type, I can just tell you straight off the bat, I have more of Kapha hair. My forehead is more of the Vata Kapha. So I'm going to teach you how you can be a blend. There's actually 10 total doshas. There's 3 main doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And then there's 7 subdoshas, a Vata, Pitta, Vata, Kapha, Pitta, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and go down the line. So I'm going to teach you all of these. But listen as I go through mine very quickly. My hair is more of the Kapha, okay? My forehead is more of the Vata Kapha. My eyebrows are more of the Pitta. When I look at my eyes, they're more of, this is a very strange blend, but more of the Vata Kapha eyes. My nose is more of the Kapha nose. My lips are more of the Kapha lips. When I look at my chin, it's more of the Pitta Kapha chin. My overall shape of the face, more Vata, okay? Vata Kapha, but more Vata, because it has a lot of heavy features, all right? So that's why I'm accepting my own features of my own face. And I have a thicker nose, I have a bigger nose, I have a stronger chin, I have all of those things, and that's more of the Kapha Vata shape of the face. My neck, more of the Vata neck, Vata Pitta if I'm doing any type of exercise at all. When I look at my shoulders, more of the Vata Kapha. My chest, when I'm looking at that specifically, Vata Kapha. When I'm looking at my wrists, I'm looking at Pitta wrists. My hands, Vata Pitta. My hips, Pitta. My legs, Pitta. My feet, Kapha. My overall body shape in general is more of the Vata Pitta body type with Kapha. And I'll talk about that in the future, because my body type is very, very unique. And that's why it's, when I was overseas as well, and I know I'm taking longer in this podcast, so I'm going to wrap up right now, is a lot of the doctors had trouble figuring out what my body type was, because I have a mom that's Kapha Pitta, and I have a dad that's Vata Kapha. And so I have mom, again, Kapha Pitta, who then was with my dad, who is a Vata Kapha. And then they have a son now who's this very strange body type of a blend of those 3 things, but fairly evenly balanced. But the majority of my body type is Vata. I'll share my exact percentages when I teach you how to do that next week. What I want you to do now is body type basics. I don't even want you to judge yourself on which one you are yet. We're going to be talking about that more next week and the week after, exactly about how to assess yourself. Understand now, figure out what you are, and you can begin to write down. You can write down which one you are. Start to circle it. Vata, Pitta, or Kapha, or are you a combination? And you can just write VP or VK. And then you can add up all your V's, all your P's, all your K's, and you can see what your predominant body type is. Because remember, and that's why I'm not even giving you a quiz today. I don't want you to do the quiz today. Too many, again, because you don't know that it's you yet, right? I want you to teach you more first. Before you do the quiz, I want to teach you first, okay? So what you have to understand is that no one, almost no one, now there are people who are 90% Vata, 90% Pitta, 90% Kapha, okay? But most people are a nice blend. They might be 70% Vata, 20% Pitta, 10% Kapha. You're typically one main body type, one main dosha, and then a blend of the others, because everyone has a little bit of every dosha in them. Some are just more predominant than others. So I'm going to keep it at that today. Again, I could talk about this for hours. I'm going to keep it at this for today. Hopefully today was helpful. Here's the thing. If you go to stevencabral.com/907, I'm going to write down each of the categories that I just went over, every single one of those. So you can use that as a reference. You can say, okay, which one am I? VPK, and I'm just going to write down VPK and write down the number of VPK. Then I'm going to tell you in the future of how to give yourself the quiz, how to score yourself. I will create a quiz for you. For right now, I wanted to give you the full constitution, and you can begin to do an honest assessment. Here's what to do. All right, I'm going to take longer. I just decided, it is what it is. I want to take a little bit longer because I'm not done teaching on today's topic. What I want you to do is this. I want you to first do the assessment yourself, and then I want your partner to do it for you. So then they do it. So again, just tell me what it is. You're not going to hurt my feelings, any of those things. What is it? And then have them do it. Then have maybe a couple other people do it. See what they see. All right. See what they see. But remember, the hard part is that they might be looking at who you are today and not necessarily your genotype, your full constitution. Some people are 100 pounds overweight. But the truth is, honestly, if you became 100 pounds overweight, it's easier to see that there's at least a predominance. There's more kapha in you. There's more endomorph in you. So when I begin to teach you about the lifestyle, you'll understand that you need to do more of the anti-kapha or kapha pacifying or kapha balancing or vata-based nutrition tips, etc., on what you need to do to balance that body type. So again, I want you to get a feel for it today. I'm going to teach you each and every week how to go deeper into this. It's truly, I firmly believe this, one of the most important things that you can learn is first, acceptance of whatever body type you are. It's beautiful. It's fantastic. It really is. It's great. You don't understand that. And then after that, after you accept it, is then beginning to learn how to balance that body type. That's what we're going to be teaching each and every week here on the Cabral Concept. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's show. I'll be back, like I said, each and every week. If this show was helpful, please do feel free to pass it on to anyone you believe it could serve. Before you go, I wanted to ask you this question. What if I could teach you in just a couple of hours how to transform your thyroid, hormones, adrenal, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, energy, mood, brain, pregnancy, anti-aging, or many other health-related issues? After 20 years in private practice, after seeing and overseeing 250,000 client appointments, I sincerely feel I have the real-world data and have found the answer you've been searching for. So what I've done is spent hundreds of hours of my own time refining what you need to know in order to uncover your underlying root cause health issues and then begin to rebalance the body and bring it back to a state of robust health and wellness. I'm going to teach you exactly what I do in my private practice so you can understand how you got here and now what you need to do in order to heal. You'll receive all of the important success checklists, protocols, and even ways to customize it to make the program fit your busy life. And you'll get all of this at a fraction of the price. Let me save you the time, money, energy, stress, and frustration of not knowing what to do next. Instead of reading dozens of books on the topic and seeing multiple practitioners, I will condense everything that you need to know in just a few hours of video tutorials that you can watch and listen to anywhere. Together, we will make this healing process an enjoyable one that you can take with you for the rest of your life. I wish you all of the best of health and happiness, and I hope to be able to guide you on your healing journey through my Health Results Accelerators. Simply choose the health imbalance you're currently suffering from, and by the end of today, you'll know what went wrong and how to get well again. I guarantee it. For details, head over now to stevencabral.com/courses.